During this presentation, I'll be talking through the 3 skills of a coach in different sports. The first skill of a sports coach is communication. Communication, in my opinion, is the most important skill required to coach athletes effectively. Coaches don't only have to communicate well with their athletes, but they also need to be able to communicate with parents, other coaches, officials, and other staff at sports clubs. For a sports coach, there are 2 types of communication, verbal and non-verbal. Verbal communication is all about how the coaches speak to their athletes. The first real fundamental of a coach verbally addressing his athletes is that it is done clearly, so that there is a full understanding and no confusion when the coach gives instructions. This is important for when a coach is talking to his athletes at all times, whether it's explaining a drill, delivering tactics before a match, or explaining the specific technique. After providing information, a coach could question his athletes to ensure they have a full understanding and to make sure they have listened. However, a coach should make sure they have provided all the information clearly in the first place to ensure everyone has a full understanding. This is more important for a rugby coach explaining a drill to his under-12s because of the fact that they are more easily confused and distracted due to being a younger age. Additionally, as well as talking to their under-12 team, a coach might benefit from using visual guidance as well as verbal, so that the athletes can visualize what they have to do. For younger athletes, visual guidance enforces their understanding of what they have to do because of the fact that verbal could sometimes be too confusing for them. So if a coach mixes both verbal and visual, it could help them to understand more. However, for older, more experienced athletes who have a more developed knowledge of the game and who are also more mature, should be able to understand verbal guidance just fine and may already know the drills quite well already. Another thing that a coach should take into consideration when verbally communicating with his athletes is the environment that they are in. Sports coaching can obviously be done inside, for example for basketball, or outside on a hockey pitch, for example. What I'm trying to get at here is how loud the coach projects their voice depending on the environment they're in. For example, a basketball coach trying to coach his players whilst they are mid-drill would need to speak really loudly and clearly due to how much echo there is and how poor the acoustics are in a basketball gym. However, a table tennis coach coaching his player one-on-one inside wouldn't have this issue due to them being one-on-one together, so he doesn't have to address a lot of people whilst there's a lot of noise going on. On the other hand, when a coach is coaching their team outside, it might mean that they need to project their voice more due to possibly having to give players instructions who are a fair distance away. For example, when a football coach is trying to give some advice to his winger who's on the other side of the pitch during a practice game in training, the coach might have to shout over in order to make sure they are heard. Moreover, a 1,500 metre coach might need to give some advice to their runner whilst they're running on the other side of the track, so speaking quietly isn't going to be heard by the runner. On the other hand though, when outside training and everyone is gathered round together, like shown in the image on the screen, there is obviously no need for a coach to speak loudly unless they're trying to motivate and pump up their players. Coaches should also use verbal communication as a way of delivering tactics to their players during a match or during training, giving clear advice on how to improve technique, which a performer will understand, and also to congratulate and praise athletes on their hard work or personal achievement. On the contrary, a coach could use non-verbal communication. This is communication from a coach to his athletes to express how they feel by using things like hand gestures, general facial expression, or body language. For example, from the image I have on the screen of Jose Mourinho, it is very clear to see that he is not impressed and is very frustrated with something that just happened on the pitch. Let's imagine it's the striker just missing a one-on-one. If the striker misses and then sees their manager look the way that Jose does in this picture, they will obviously be able to clearly tell, without the manager saying anything, that they aren't happy. Moreover, a netball coach could give a player quite a harsh stare or shake their head as a way of telling them they aren't impressed. On the other hand though, coaches can use non-verbal communication to praise their athletes. For example, a tennis coach might give their player a thumbs up or a nod of the head to tell them they're doing a good job. As an athlete, this can be really reassuring because it gives you a bit more self-belief. I would say that non-verbal communication shouldn't be a thing that is used a lot by coaches in training, because during training that's the time for coaches to use verbal communication to give players advice on how to improve technically and tactically by being able to go into a lot of detail. However, you see non-verbal communication used a lot during matches though, especially in a sport like tennis, due to the fact that it's actually against the rules for coaches to verbally communicate with their players during a match. Therefore, coaches will have to rely on non-verbal communication to let their players know how they feel. Saying that though, sometimes it's best tennis coaches don't show much emotion during a match due to how mentally demoralizing it could be for a player to look up and see their coach shaking their head or with their head in their hands. The second skill of a coach is organisation. A coach being organised ensures that they are well prepared and structured for their weekly schedule, which will be full of training sessions, whether it's group, one-on-one sessions, or also sporting fixtures and events at the weekend. A huge part of being organised as a coach involves being prepared for training sessions. They should have all their training sessions planned out with what they're going to do, due to it being their responsibility to coach and improve their performers. This will be a high expectation from the athletes and also parents that the coach has all training sessions fully organised and planned to make sure that they feel like their coach is dedicated to their improvement. Moreover, a coach being organised would mean that they will turn up to training sessions early and get the first set of drills laid out ready to ensure that they don't have to waste time during the sessions setting up drills. However, maybe due to a lack of space, a coach might be forced to have to set up new drills during the training session. Instead of doing this all on their own, a coach could be organised and set his players' duties of moving the goals if it's during a football session, or moving cones to the correct position for the next drill. This will ensure that the coach doesn't have to waste time setting up new drills on their own, and instead can use organisation skills to get his performers to help them out. Additionally, a coach should be fully organised in knowing who's going to be attending each of the sessions. This is obviously really important if a basketball coach, for example, is running 6 training sessions each week, because they will need to be organised in creating a register for each session so they are aware of the numbers they will be receiving for each of the training sessions. This could affect what a coach does during a session based on the number of people that are attending. If a coach doesn't create some kind of register or a note of who will be attending, then this could completely mess up what they plan to do in a training session for just 12 people, and then all of a sudden 20 people turn up. The final key part of organisation for a sports coach is when it comes to organising fixtures. First of all, the coach will have to be organised with contacting the opposition manager to confirm the date when they'll be playing, and then also make them aware of the venue. Secondly, they will need to be organised in hiring out the venue for all their fixtures in advance. For example, a rugby coach will need to ensure they have a pitch to play on for each of their home matches. If a coach is organised and books out the pitch for each of their matches well in advance, it will ensure there won't need to be a mad rush to try and find somewhere to play a week before, for example. Additionally, coaches need to be organised in making contact with all the players and parents of when matches are, so they know in advance, just in case fixtures clash with any family plans or arrangements. Also, it's more professional that a coach makes athletes and parents aware of when fixtures are in advance instead of a week before, if possible. It is also their responsibility to organise for match officials to be there, whether it's a referee for hockey, netball, rugby, football, or also any other appropriate officials that should be there to help attend during the match. The third and final skill of a coach is analysing. Analysis of sports performance is the ability to observe and make appropriate judgments about performers' technical and tactical ability. A sports coach needs to be able to analyse their performance game really well in order to be able to spot their strengths and weaknesses. Being able to analyse a performer is not an easy skill to have, because it requires some in-depth knowledge and also personal experience of playing the sport to be able to spot what's not working well for a performer. This is a big expectation of a coach though, because their profession is to be